Ladies and gentlemen, PJTV has obtained video of a shocking crime being committed in broad daylight right in the heart of our nation's capital. I'm Steve Green. This is Trifecta. We'll show you that in just a moment, but first I want to bring on Scott Ott and special guest Tammy Bruce so they can watch along with us. Let's go ahead and run that clip.
Let's stipulate that you're right. Let's say armed guards might work. Let's widen the argument out a little bit. So here is a magazine for ammunition that carries 30 bullets. Now, isn't it possible that if we got rid of these, if we replaced them and said, well, you could only have a magazine that carries 5 bullets or 10 bullets, isn't it just possible that we could reduce the carnage in a situation like Newtown?
Maybe we could mandate that only clips that fire unicorns be sold. All right, maybe I oversold the crime you saw, but high-capacity magazines, a.k.a. high-capacity ammunition, or a big clip, the gun grabbers get all this stuff wrong, but high-capacity magazines are illegal to possess in the district, and yet during a Friday afternoon document dump when nobody was watching, the D.C. Attorney General wrote that David Gregory will not face charges. Scott, no justice, no peace, right?
Actually, I'm with David Gregory on this one. I don't think anybody has the right to infringe upon David Gregory's right to have a 30-round magazine. In fact, I hope he has something that he can snap that baby into and go down to the target range and have some fun. You know, and the truth of the matter is that Washington, D.C. is not devoid of 30-round magazines or clips. The truth is that Washington, D.C. probably has more of those than any other city in the world. It's just that they're not in the hands of people who need to defend themselves against thugs. They're in the hands of law enforcement and government. Now, if you absolutely trust your government and think that'll never be a threat, if you think that your streets are so safe that you'll never need to defend yourself against somebody who, oh, I don't know, maybe they could buy those things by mail order from practically anywhere in the world. Government has this mentality that's like from Underdog. Like they're going to, somehow they're going to ban those clips, and then Simon Bar Sinister is going to make a magnet that's going to suck up every 30-round clip in the world, and they'll just all be gone from the face of the earth.
Wave that wand. Hey, Tammy, you're one of those right-wing gun nuts. I'm sure you think the D.C. bans are as useless as Scott said, so why not let Gregory off the hook?
Well, you know, here's the problem. Right now, there is a law in place, and one of the larger issues, separate from the gun issue, is the real weakening of the rule of law in the country. Is that when that begins to really fade, when people see that there is a different standard, and that from a day-to-day basis, where you won't know what law you'll be charged with or who it will be held against, who it applies to and who it doesn't. So when you have such a national exhibition that there's a different standard for David Gregory than there is, let's say, if you or I did this in public, then people begin to wonder, well, you know, what counts and what can't I not do? And it's the rule of law that becomes a factor. It's a message to everybody that the government's not taking seriously and law enforcement's not taking seriously laws, that they really are just there for the little people. And that's something that I think is going to, I think there should be a pretty severe backlash in that regard. And that's what concerns me about that, almost more than anything else.
You know, the rule of law is exactly what's at stake here. And Scott, what I'd like to know is, whatever happened to those old-fashioned hanging judges who would throw the book at David Gregory precisely because he is rich and famous and would make a great example?
Well, I think we could take this and use it for something useful, which is to comb the court cases of Washington, D.C. and the jails of Washington, D.C. and find out if there's anybody at all who has been charged with the crime of merely possessing a 30-round magazine, and then bring those people back to trial and let them off because clearly they're doing something that's permissible and that is, at least local law enforcement has the option of whether they want to prosecute that or not. So if David Gregory doesn't have to obey it, and frankly, I think it's a stupid law, then anybody else who's been busted for that. Now, I also am guessing that nobody else has been busted for that. It's one of those ridiculous rules that they think is going to do something, but nobody ever gets charged with that.
Yeah, take it off the books if you're not going to charge people. Tammy, I'm pretty sure there are laws in D.C. against incest, too, so this last bit might be interesting. Politico hardly covered this story at all, even though it's been going on now for 3 weeks. And it's a coincidence, I'm sure, that Politico's senior political reporter Jonathan Martin is married to Meet the Press executive producer Elizabeth Disher Martin. Coincidence, right?
Well, you know, they only see each other. These are the people, they go to the same cocktail parties. They're going to have to intermarry at some point because they never leave their bubble. I mean, it's eventual. I mean, so God forbid, never go to a party in D.C. You might end up marrying one of these people because they just don't get out. I think it indicates that they're probably bored. And look, whether it's Andrea Mitchell being married to the Fed guy. I mean, nobody knows who these people are married to.
Alan Greenspan, yeah.
Alan Greenspan. I mean, people don't realize she has an interest in making sure that Alan Greenspan is never held accountable for the disaster we're facing now. But it's important to know, and I like that it's being reported, and you must realize that the people in Washington and the media in Washington don't know really anybody outside of their circle. So we're it, and we should make ourselves more known.
Indeed, we should. Just avoid those cocktail parties. You never know where you're going to end up. All right, David Gregory, folks, isn't facing charges for 2 reasons, and I think you'll agree that they're fair reasons. It's because he's rich, and because he's famous, and because he's better than you and me. All right, 3 reasons. And as we've seen, being rich and famous and better than everybody else can get you out of a lot of jams. So I hope David Gregory finds comfort knowing he's right up there with Lindsay Lohan. For PJTV, I'm Steve Green.